Welcome, everybody. I thought today's episode I would try doing a data filled one for any of you guys interested in some spreadsheet type stuff for positional players. So I exported a data tab with all the key information for kind of like defense and some ratings. And I made a filter minimum like 340 plate appearances, 320 or something. So essentially, it does all the starters for each position on the positional players here. There's a few missing for catchers. Some teams have like rotated 2 or 3 guys. There's 26 catchers, but every other position essentially, it's like every single starter in the league. There's probably a few small errors. There is some guys listed at the wrong position that where they start at. Like some of the guys will list in second base, but they're actually a first baseman or something. But for the most part, I think it's pretty correct. So I thought it'd be cool. I kind of colorized and did the conditional formatting so you can see some of the different ratings. I mainly did this because I wanted to see the defensive ratings for the infielders. So if any of you guys want, you can pause the screen or ask me to send this file to you. It's not too hard to do. Essentially, I just made a filter that had name, position, age, organization, plate appearance, all these stats you see up here, and then the big five here, all the currents, so contact, gap power, power, eye, avoid, and then I have total chances on defense, errors, double plays, zone range, base running, ultimate base running, BSR, SB, and then the big two at the end, WPA and WAR. So I'll go through all of them and just kind of see what you notice and kind of what stands out. I thought would be a little bit of fun. So catcher wise, as you can see, there's about 5 guys that are close to 20 home runs on the season. The big bats there: Murphy, Majaya, Rutman, Bart, and Jones. And then you can kind of see some other stuff too, like the highest walk rates. So you'll see about 7 guys are in the double digits there. I thought it was really interesting to see the huge contact jump. You get 5 guys at 60 or above, and essentially every other catcher in baseball is below. What I forgot to mention too is at the top I have averages. That was actually pretty much my favorite part of doing this because Out of the Park doesn't really show that, is the averages of everything. So as you can see for catchers, the average based on balls percentage there is 7.8, and the average strikeout is 22. And then the average WRC plus this season for the starting catchers is 83. And then most of all, you can see the ratings. So the average catcher is a 50 bat. You get about, as you can see here, you get about 10 guys that have below a 50 bat, and then you get about 8 guys that have a 50 bat, and then you see about 7 guys above. So 50 bat on average, 51 gap power on average. The power is on average about 45. As you can see in the power, the 4 guys that have 60 are 3 of the guys that have double-digit home runs. Huff has about half the plate appearances of those guys. He'd be on pace for about 20 home runs. You can see the guys really do play up to their ratings. Pat Bailey is the only one kind of not playing up to his power rating, only 8 home runs. That's Detroit, hard stadium to hit home runs in. Same with Miami there. And same with St. Louis, actually, all kind of pitchers' parks. So interesting there. And then as you can see with the eye, you get 160. The eye is actually even lower than the contact, which surprised me a little bit. I thought for catcher it'd be the other way around. And then so the average catcher bat is like a 50, 50, 45, right in between 45 and 50 and 50. So 45 to 50 across the board give you your average catcher. The ability was even lower than I thought. The average catchability in this league is only 58. There's a lot of guys starting with below 50 catchability here. Sorry, below 60. And then you have 80 and 70, and then everyone else is kind of in that 60 to 65 range, is number 3 to number 16. And then the arm is pretty much just a tad higher. You get the average at 58 ability, average to 60 arm. And then errors, you can see almost everyone's single digits there, pretty similar. Double plays kind of all over the board there. Zone range is interesting. No one's above 2.7 or below 2.7, which I thought was pretty interesting. Everyone's pretty equal there when it comes to zone range for catchers. Base running's kind of all over the map. You get a couple really good runners there. Um, and the average is 53, but you get some real low ones there. As you can see, the UBRs are all in the negatives for all those low guys, so it really just shows everyone always seems to play to their ratings. And then you get the most clutch players. You get the big hitters there, clutch WPA guys. And then as you can see, the WAR rankings, you only have 5, 6 catchers above a 1.7 WAR. Pretty hard position to generate a lot of offense. So that's why I figure Adley Rutschman's probably one of the most valuable players in the league, top 7. Sean Murphy had a monster season too. He's right behind him. And then you can see there's just a lot of zero. One in replacement level is essentially, they say, for most position players, one below. It's a little tougher with catchers. You want to kind of rank ability a little higher. But yeah, that's a lot of time on the catchers. I'll try and go a little faster, actually. I kind of forgot there's all these positions. So first baseman, you have the average bat is a 52 contact, so very similar to catcher, which is shocking. I know obviously there's a lot more power, but just shows that catcher, first base right now in baseball, even though it seems like there's a lot of good ones, there isn't quite as many contact guys there as you would think. It's a really just like the top six is above 60 there. And then everyone else, there's a lot of 45, 50s. The difference is the power, obviously, about 10 higher than catcher. Average power and gap power 56 and 58. The eye is 53, so the average bat 52, 56. So kind of like 50. If you had 55 across the board there for first baseman, it would be about league average. And then as you can see, the zone range here is interesting. You get a lot of guys getting some innings there that are at first base there. Some of these guys are at DH, so this is a little bit flawed. They're listed at first base. But essentially, you kind of know who the big bats are here. So this position's kind of the easiest to break down. This year you had the huge seasons out of Bregman and Vaughn, and Ricky Ortiz had a big year. And then WAR rankings there, you get the big three: Bregman, Vaughn, and Guerrero. Shockingly to me, Sean Robbie actually had the fourth highest WAR. I didn't really notice that till recently. My guy had a huge season there. So that's it for first base. Actually, won't really go into that too much. I will talk about the zone range there. Actually, you will see here that Gunnar Henderson there. I was at 4.4, which is pretty impressive. And then you got 2.2, but you have mostly in that same average. You had a catcher 2.9 to minus kind of 2.9 minus a few guys at the bottom here that are real low. So that's it for first base. Second base is where it's really interesting. I really wanted to look at the second base and shortstop range numbers. Second base, the average range in baseball right now, second baseman starting TLG, sorry, I keep saying the wrong league, my old league, FTD, is 58. The error is a lot higher, almost 5 points higher. So on average, you get close to a 60 at range, a 60 to 65 air, a 55 arm, and a 65 turn double play almost. So the turn double play is definitely the highest out of these categories along with the air. So you definitely have an interesting cycle there. I thought it'd be even lower, maybe 55 or 56. So almost 60 range of your average second baseman is pretty high. You have a few guys bringing that up at the top with Perez and Richardson, kind of like shortstop numbers. Perez especially, Royce Lewis. These top guys are pretty much all shortstops. Ratings wise, these top five guys, they just start on teams with really good shortstops. So they all kind of play second base. Almost all the elite shortstops are on those five teams for the most part. And then, as you can see at second base, you have a few guys that have some innings here at the bottom. Some of these guys are DHs. Again, that's a little bit flawed. But for the most part, you get almost everyone in the league is from 55 to 60. You get a huge range from number 35 to number 15 here, so 20 guys. And then you have the top 14 here. That are from 65 to 75. So yeah, top 15 second base range wise if you're at 65 or above, which kind of makes sense. Zone range here, you got Vargas at 17 zone range. That's at 70 range, 75 air, 65 arm, and then no one else really even close to him. Next to Richardson, that's sixth behind, still in double digits. Really impressive there. The WRC plus for Vargas is so high too. That's why he's such a monster. 3.9 more season. And then you get how many guys here? You get 20 guys above zero zone range there, and 18 of them are between 0 and 8. So that's interesting. And then at the WAR ratings here, you get the two elite guys, Royce Lewis and Ed Howard. Ed Howard had an insane season. You can see the base running stuff here is just off the charts. If you sort by UBR, he's at 9. BSR is at 16. No one else above 7. 56 stolen bases. So just a ridiculous runner there at second base. Just adds to his value. Pretty good bat too. Probably about 2 or 3 of that WAR comes from running. If you look at the WRC plus, it's 133. The guy above him and below him are about 150. So you just see that base running and defense adds a ton of value. Just a monster. At third base here, your average range is 52. Your average air is 61. Your average arm is 68. Turn double play is about 50, which is pretty high for third base, even though it doesn't really matter much at third base. But the arm is interesting. Obviously, at third base, the arm is huge. Gortana and Valdez there both have 80 arms, which is nasty. You have 12 guys with over a 75 or above arm, and then you have another all the way down to number 21 here of 70 arms, 1 to 21, which is incredible. And you don't have anyone lower than a 60 really. So as long as if you look at the zone range here, you got 11 out of Chapman, just an insane range and arm combo. And then you get an 8 out of Vera, and you get Kazono there. That's pretty much a shortstop playing third base at 7 zone range. And then you really only have about 8, 9 guys above a 1 zone range. Everyone else is 1 or below. So that top guy, top 2 really kind of spew the third base rankings. And then there's some real low ones at the bottom, -11, -8. So kind of balances out. All the zone range always balances to 0. So anyone that's like a +11 usually have someone that's like a -11 kind of balance it out for the most part, top and bottom. In case anyone didn't know that. And then after that, you have some just the kind of the recap there. You get Riley and Schwartz there at 5.1 WAR each. I think Wander Franco and Tatis are third and fourth here. So you get a lot of really good third basemen in FTD here. Number 20 and above are all over 1.5 WAR players. So that's pretty nasty position there. A lot of really skilled players. Here's the gold mine. Here's the one I really want to talk about, the shortstops. Favorite position always. So you have 4 guys that have 5 guys, 6 guys almost that have, we'll keep it at 4 here. 4 guys that have major power that are 30 home run threat type guys, especially Cabrera here, who did only 427 plate appearances. Or sorry, 438. You get a pretty interesting profile there. You have 1 bat that's a 70 contact. That's the ever talented Juan Vasquez. And then you have 4 guys at 55 contact. The average contact shortstop is only 47. So if you compare second base at 52, shortstop 47, almost 5 points lower. The average power is 44. At second base, it was 46. So in this league, you'll notice, the power is pretty similar, but it's the contact that's a lot lower. Pretty much 45 to 50 across the board is your average shortstop. 47, 50, 45, 50, 50. So yeah, if you got a guy 50 across the board, he's just a tad above average there. Pretty high above average with 50 power, because there's just not too many shortstops that can hit. So if you look at the home run totals and then look at the power totals after, you can see everyone with double digits here is so you got 50, 50, 50, a couple 45s there, 55, 55, 60, 65, 70. So you don't have anyone too low there. Willie Adames probably the highest, that only has 300 plate appearances, 4 home runs there. But for the most part, yeah, if you want double digit home runs out of your shortstop, you're gonna need a 50 bat at least, about 550 plate appearances. The range is where it gets really crazy. This is the one I really was interested in. The average range for shortstops is 68. So almost a 70 range. It's just your average. You have 380s, and then you have number 4 to 11 are all 70 and above, 75 and above. So you got 7 and 3 for 75 and 80 range. And then you have 5 more 70s, and then you have a huge amount of 65s here, all the way from, 17 down to 28. So you get 11 65s, and then you get 5 guys. So you only have, if you have a shortstop that's below 65, you're in the very bottom tier of only 5 out of 33 shortstops. And I don't know why Brady House is listed as shortstop here, but anyways, you got error. The average error is insane. This is probably the most surprising stat of this whole chart for me for any of the positions, was the shortstop error average rating is 73. That's just incredible. You have 15 starting shortstops in FTD that have 80 error. That's just ridiculous. The lowest you have is 60. So 60 is pretty good. Like, frick. In the draft, most of the time, there's a lot of shortstops, like 65, 70 range, like 50, 55 error. So unbelievable amount of this, kind of shocking when I joined the league how many good shortstops there were. I just couldn't believe it. Like, in the draft every year, the best shortstops have like 65 range, 50 arm, like a 45 bat. So I don't know. It's just incredible how all these real guys are just so rated so much higher than the guys in the future. So I'd imagine in like 6, 7 years that this number will get cut in like half, and there'll be like 180 and a couple 75s. Just an insane amount. So if you look at all the 80 range guys for their ages, you get 28, 28, 28. A lot of guys in their late 20s, and then 3 guys right about 30, 4 guys right about 30, and then you have 35-year-olds. So I'd imagine that once these top 5 elite guys at their late 20s kind of grow out of it and lose some range in their early 30s, you have to imagine probably still about 5 years of like a lot of really elite shortstops. There's just a ton of guys in their late 20s here. Almost no young guys. So if you look at the highest zone range guys, infield infield range guys, you don't really have any star shortstops other than Vasquez in the entire league, all the way until you get down to these guys. But they're near the bottom at 65 range and negative zone range. So the current shortstops are just incredible in their prime, but I'd imagine in about 4 to 5 years there's going to be a huge turnover, and that's what just makes Vasquez so valuable, because I think when he's like 28, 29, still has like 70, 75 range, he's just going to be so much better than all the other shortstops. It's going to be crazy. Right now he's still probably the best one. Him or Pacheco's pretty close, but it just shows the gap between him and the guys around his age is just insanely high. So uh, what an incredible player. Like I said, if you look at the hit tool there, is just so much higher than everyone else around him. So stolen base too, you get 3 guys above 25 there. So the WAR rankings, you get 17 shortstops that are one WAR or higher. Next up is the corner outfielders, which I won't spend a lot of time on. There's a few guys here. These guys could all probably play center field. Anyone at 65 range could, for the most part, play fringy center field. So there's a pretty good amount of defensive guys up in the zone range here. All these guys are kind of, except for Bradfield there for some reason, but all these guys have been pretty high zone ranges. So you get the Pittsburgh guy is incredible. The center fielder playing right field because they're so loaded in the outfield. A couple really elite defensive guys here in the corner outfields. WAR wise, you got Murphy and Julio there at the top. You have a bunch of really good corner guys there. You get 4 really, really talented dudes with 5 or above already. Interesting. So the averages are. Oh, I skipped third base. Oh no, I didn't. Okay. The averages are 55 for contact almost, and then 55 for power and gap power, and then 53, 50. So interesting there for corner outfield. The bat is on average about 55 with about a 50 approach. The approach is a little bit lower than the contact and power in this league. So you got a lot of guys that are probably like 55, 55, 50, 55, and then have like that lower eye. The eye doesn't seem like it though when you look, but there's a lot more corner outfielders that go down pretty far here. So a lot of guys with really low eyes here. You get 69 to 85 or all 45 and below. So just an interesting balance. And then last of all, we'll look at the center fielders here. Center fielders, your average bat is 52 with 55 gap power, just over 50 power. So interesting, if you look at the gap, the 50-50. So really it's just 50 across the board, like 55 gap essentially, halfway to 55 for contact and power. So if you compare that to shortstop, so you just look at that one more time, 52, 55, 52, 50, 50. You got quite a bit lower at shortstop. The power is really significantly different. Shortstop 44, and the center field power is 52. So center field is a lot more bat. There's a few guys that kind of, there's just so many elite guys at the top that kind of skew that a little bit. Burns and Bellinger especially, both at 75 is just ridiculous. You have a lot of center fielders here that are below 50, 21 down to 31, about 10 guys. But yeah, those top 3 really skew the results, and then you get a couple other big bats there, Richardson, and then Joe Adell, and then Jordan Diaz. All those guys have pretty big power there. Hector there. So really, really loaded position too. A lot of really good hitting center fielders right now in the league. You have 370 bats there, contact-wise. And then you get 5 more 60s, and you don't really have anyone below 45. So really deep position there too. If you look at the WAR totals here, you got a 6.5, 5, 4, 4. And then you get quite a bit of guys, 25 guys above 1 WAR. These guys have a chance to get 1 WAR too. So 25 to 27 guys that are going to be above replacement level type players. Pretty nasty overall deep position. And then if you look at the league as a whole, so this takes every position player I just showed you in all the sub tiers. I added them all into the all hitters tab. That's 300 players that had over 340 plate appearances this year. I don't think I include DHs, but they could have been listed at different positions. So 300 players in the league that get significant plate appearances. The average contact is 52. The average power is 52. The average eye is 51 and 51. So essentially, the average bat in the league has about 155, and then all the rest are about 50s, maybe a second 55. So just kind of something that's interesting. You can't really do the averages for range, and because they're different outfield and infield range. I'd have to take the higher of the two. It'd be really complicated. But you can just see the average walk rate is about 8%. The average strikeout is 22. the average WRC plus rate just over 100 there. That's the guys who get more plate appearances. So that would, if you took everyone that had plate appearances in the major leagues for the whole season, obviously be lower because the guys that have less plate appearances probably aren't as good. As that always tries to balance out right to about 100. So yeah, it's really interesting. If you take the average like catcher, WRC plus is 83, and then all the regs, the bats is about 102. So definitely always about 20 points lower at that position. The highest obviously is probably first base. Let's see if it is though to make sure. See if it was a weird year. So WRC plus at first base 111, and then second base 96. Third base is 107, so only 4 points lower in first base, and then only 79 at shortstop. 112 at left field, right field. Was that? Oh, it's actually higher. So left field, right field right now is actually higher than first base WRC plus. That's crazy. And then 106 at center field. So yeah, you can see some averages here, and then the average WAR in the league for the guys that have over 300 plate appearances is 1.62, and then the average age in the league is 29 years old, so that is very high actually for position players. That's really interesting. Thought it'd be a lot lower than that. So still a lot of older players. I think what happens is when you start a league, the guys that are real seem to always get higher ratings than the computer-generated guys in the future. So I think another one of those things in 4 or 5 years, once these old guys start to age out, they'll be a little bit younger age. But we'll see how that works. But yeah, that's it for this video. Anyone that's interested, it's really easy. Essentially, you just make a view in out of the park that just follows this exact order. So if you just pause the screen, you just go to your views, clear it all, and then just make one that has in this exact order: name, position, age, all that stuff. And then all you're going to do in the game is you're going to hit report, open browser, and then you're just going to copy and paste everything. You can even copy and paste the top one here to get the views I just talked about, and then you're going to copy everything, and you're going to copy it, and then you're just going to go into Excel, and then you're just going to go here, and then you're going to paste it all, and then you're going to go to style styles. You're going to make it white, and then you're going to put it in the middle, and boom, it screwed up one category here, so you'd have to highlight it, move it all to the left there. But anyways, that's essentially it, and it would just give you all your information there. So that's how easy it is to export from Excel. So all you have to do is just find the views here. So I just go to filter and then make one for at least like 340 plate appearances, and then I would go like for position and then just go first base, and then it would just show 40 first baseman here. So unfortunately, when you do a report, it's only going to show what's on this screen. So if you scroll down to the second page, you'll have to do it again and just do it for the second page, which takes a little bit longer, but this whole process doesn't take long. It's actually a little bit simpler than you would think. And then the conditional formatting, you just highlight the whole category. You can just highlight it, the highest being green, lowest being red, or you do it any other order you want. So like if I just want to take all the BSRs here, they're all white right now. So you just take everything in this list and you want to conditional format it. You're going to make the highest green. You're just going to go like that. And it's just going to color code it for you. So really cool. Some little tricks there. And then if you just make it all a table, Control T, and then you're going to make it a table, which it already is. And then you're just going to be able to sort it by any category. So you can just sort it by any of these things using a little line. So pretty easy once you kind of learn Excel to do stuff like this. Really fun. So that's it for this video. Cheers, guys.